The massive naval base buzzed with activity that morning. Rows of ships glittered under the sun, cadets moved briskly across the deck, and officers barked orders as the Admiral's convoy rolled in. Admiral Hayes was known for his sharp wit and no-nonsense attitude. He had returned from a Pacific inspection tour and was in no mood for surprises, or so he thought. Among the new arrivals waiting at the dock was a woman in a plain naval uniform, no visible rank insignia, no medals, just a calm and collected demeanor. She stood with her hands behind her back, observing everything quietly as though she had seen it all before. When Admiral Hayes spotted her, he frowned slightly. "You there," he said, approaching her with a casual grin, "you look far too relaxed for someone new on my base." The woman glanced at him, her expression unreadable. "Just taking it all in, sir." Hayes chuckled. "That's so. What's your rank, sailor?" he asked, more playfully than seriously. The officers nearby chuckled. They thought she might stammer or scramble to answer. But she didn't. Her eyes met his squarely. "Fleet Commander," she said, her tone cool and composed. The laughter died instantly. Hayes blinked, sure he'd misheard. "Excuse me, I said Fleet Commander, sir," she repeated, pulling a small black badge from her pocket, one so rare that even most high-ranking officers had only ever seen it in briefings. It bore the insignia of the Joint Allied Maritime Command, a position that outranked even regional admirals. A murmur rippled through the crowd. The admiral's hand trembled slightly as he reached for the badge. This can't be." Before he could finish, a Marine aide ran up, whispering urgently into his ear. "Sir, headquarters just confirmed her arrival. Fleet Commander Aurora Kane, direct from NATO Command." Admiral Hayes went pale. He straightened instantly, snapping to attention. "Ma'am," he said, voice suddenly tight with formality, I wasn't informed of your inspection." Aurora's expression softened slightly. "That's the point of an inspection, Admiral," she said with a faint smile. The entire dock fell silent. Officers who had been laughing moments before now stood frozen, staring in disbelief. Then, without another word, Fleet Commander Kane walked past him, her steps steady, her gaze set on the massive fleet stretching across the bay. The Admiral, realizing the gravity of who he had just spoken to, exhaled slowly, the color draining from his face. He wasn't known to be an easy man to shake, but that morning, every officer on base would remember the moment when the Admiral asked her rank just for fun, and nearly collapsed when she answered. As Fleet Commander Aurora Kane strode down the dock, the morning wind carried the faint scent of salt and engine oil. The once bustling base had fallen eerily quiet. Sailors stood straighter. Officers saluted so sharply that their hands trembled. Even the Admiral, known for his thunderous voice, trailed behind her in complete silence. Aurora's boots echoed on the steel deck of the flagship Vigilant. Every sound, the distant hum of turbines, the rhythmic crash of waves, seemed to fade beneath the weight of her presence. She moved with the calm assurance of someone who'd seen real battle, not ceremony. "Commander," she said evenly to the ship's captain, who scrambled to meet her at the gangway. "Report status, ma'am. Ship operational readiness at 86%, pending supply clearance and..." "Pending," she interrupted, her gaze flicking toward the loading bay where crates sat unattended. "Those were supposed to be on board 12 hours ago." The captain stiffened. "Yes, ma'am, we, ran into a paperwork delay with..." "Paperwork doesn't stop an enemy missile," Aurora said, flatly. Admiral Hayes swallowed hard behind her. He had spent his entire career inspecting others, but this was different. She wasn't just looking for flaws, she saw everything. Her eyes lingered on crew formations, weapon mounts, and even the posture of a young ensign trying to hide a torn sleeve. "You," she called out suddenly, turning toward the ensign. The young man froze, saluting shakily. "Ma'am, what's your post?" "Navigation officer trainee, ma'am." "Good. Then remember this, precision starts with presentation. Fix that sleeve before you touch a console again." "Yes, ma'am," he barked, darting off with renewed purpose. Hayes dared a faint, uneasy smile. "You run a tight command, Fleet Commander." She turned her head slightly, just enough for him to see the sharpness in her eyes. "I run an alive command, Admiral. There's a difference." They continued deeper into the ship, the operations center, the communications bay, and finally the command bridge. There, Aurora paused before a massive display showing current fleet deployments across the Pacific. Red dots blinked at the edges of the map, unidentified vessels. She folded her arms. "Why wasn't I briefed on these incursions before I arrived?" The Admiral hesitated. Were classified as minor signals. Probably, doesn't exist in command, Admiral, she cut in coldly. Those dots represent unknown movements in contested waters. Minor signals can become major losses overnight. Her voice dropped a note lower. I've seen it happen. The silence that followed was heavy. Then she straightened, tapping the console to bring the display into full view. Effective immediately, she said, this fleet is under operational review. Training schedules, patrol routes, personnel efficiency, all of it. She turned toward Hayes. You and I will debrief at 1800. Bring every report, every ship log, and every reason why readiness is below 95%. And with that, she walked off the bridge, leaving the Admiral standing there, heart pounding, finally realizing who he was dealing with. Not just a superior officer, but a living legend of the fleet.